Welcome to Keep Smiling, the e-commerce customer experience podcast. Hello everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm your host, Ty Walters. Today we cover an introduction to email authentication, following the thread of e-commerce customer service in 38, 5 best practices for your customer service email in episode 39, and then today, talking about how we can prove when we send an email to our shoppers or our customers that whatever or whoever sent that email is a legitimate authorized sender. And there's a lot of bad actors out there trying to steal your information, your money, your identity, and email authentication is one of the ways that doesn't happen. And we stay safe when we're operating in our inboxes. So we're not going to spend too much time before we get into it. But next episode is going to be a follow-up from this one. Next time, we're going to actually set live email authentication records for one of the domains I own. This is an SPF, dkim, and dmarc record. We're going to talk about why those matter and what they are today. And then next time, we'll be walking through a live example. It would be helpful if you're setting these for the first time to see how I would do it. A note is it's different in many different domain service provider setups. So what I show could be different, but in general, these steps are going to be the same. And I'm not a technical guy really, but this content can be intimidating. It's kind of like sensitive settings. There's warnings sometimes when we go to edit these, but I'd like to demystify this a little bit and really break it down when it comes to it. It's a couple simple text records that are semi-human readable that we put in a folder somewhere. And then that really makes our email activity much safer, more legitimate, and it identifies with our brand. So with this, if you'd like to visit the show notes for a lot of the articles we discuss or some of the pages we visit, you can go to sellersmile.com/040. We'll link everything there. And previous episodes, I just stayed in some slides, and today I'm going to switch it up, and we're going to be visiting a few web pages, doing a little bit more browsing and activity. Hopefully that's helpful. And a challenge to action, like always at the end, we're going to be preparing for actually implementing some of these email authentication records with our domains. I personally have dozens of domains, so there's a lot of work to be done manually for me to make sure each one of them is safe. And but start with the ones that you're operating with or you're building, and you can expand from there. Before we start the 5-minute segment, I wanted to mention this episode and all of them have been brought to you by SellerSmile. I'm the owner of SellerSmile. We're a customer service agency specializing in e-commerce. We take care of everything from Amazon to Shopify, eBay, Walmart. We just integrated with Kickstarter recently. We cover social media, analytics, and community management. Anything under the customer service umbrella, product reviews, seller feedback. So if you're interested in any of those services or would like to chat, please go to sellersmile.com and we offer a free trial, or you can get in contact with us and we can talk more. Okay, with that preamble out of the way, let's get into 5 minutes of an introduction to email authentication. So the first place I'd like to take us is a website of the Federal Trade Commission. They have this page about email authentication, and this really is kind of the heart of it. It's keeping customers safe. And they say email authentication technology makes it a lot harder for a scammer to send phishing emails that look like they're from your company. Using email authentication technology makes it a lot harder for scammers to send phishing emails. This technology allows a receiver server to verify an email from your company and block emails from an imposter, or send them to a quarantine folder and then notify you about them. So scrolling down here, what to know, they mention these 3 methods here: the Sender Policy Framework, or SPF, the Domain Keys Identified Mail, or dkim, and then the Domain-Based Message Authentication Reporting and Conformance, or dmarc. So the acronyms are a little easier way to say those: SPF, dkim, and dmarc. And these are the 3 methods that we're going to be focused on making sure our email is authenticated. So let's move over to a article from Cloudflare, and they have this DNS records. And if we're scrolling down, DNS records, what is a DNS record? Email authentication is implemented through DNS records. So it says DNS records are, or AKA zone files, are instructions that live in authoritative DNS servers and provide information about a domain, including what IP address is associated with that domain and how to handle requests for that domain. So the thing here is authoritative DNS servers. There's really one place where this information is the source of truth. You have access to that if you're the domain owner, and whatever you put in that will be read and directed and acted upon by email providers trying to use your domain, people trying to visit your website, things like that. So it's a very high level, non-technical view of it, but it's just a DNS record. It's something that lives in a place that tells others what to do. So specifically, when we're talking about email authentication, we're referring to a certain type of DNS record, and those are text records, or TXT. And text records, as you can see, come in three forms here for email authentication: SPF, dkim, and dmarc. So each one of these is just a text record. I don't want to say just, they're complicated and there's a lot of technology, but the implementation is simple, that each one is its own text record. Each domain can have multiple text records, and each one of those is formatted in a semi-human but also machine readable format that gives these instructions, issues these instructions according to our preferences as the domain owner. So that's really as simple as it is. 3 records with your domain service provider. So moving into an article released in October of 2023 by Gmail, they basically, to boil it down, said, we are making it more strict with our requirements for email authentication. When we receive email on behalf of our users, we are going to be a little bit more spam intensive in terms of trying to limit some of that activity. Gmail does a lot already, but they want to raise the bar. And what really kind of the heart of this is the guidelines and the requirements. So they have separate guidelines for bulk senders, those sending more than 5,000 a day. And if you're an e-commerce seller, you're likely using many or several different bulk service providers kind of under the hood in certain regards. But there's also requirements for all senders here. And as we can see, central to both are SPF and dkim authentication, and also dmarc. So those are the 3 authentications that we're going to proceed talking about. And jumping ahead to our blog, sellersmile.com/blog, we wrote an article about this entitled Activate dkim, SPF, and dmarc authentication for better email security and deliverability. And there we have just this simple little diagram that shows each one of these, and trying to distinguish and remind us that there's 3 distinct records, but they all play a key role in making sure our email is authenticated. So an SPF record is a list of domains and IP addresses, just like a bouncer or a butler at a party, a door person that lets someone in. If you're not on the list, then we handle you in a certain way. And for dkim records, that's this public and private key that's authenticated. Without the key, we can't really prove you are who you say you are. And with the key, we can say with confidence that you've obtained this key in a secure way. And then with dmarc, that's a record of how to handle when these different SPF and dkim methods fail. What would you, as the domain owner, like a receiver of that email to do with it? And we can do anything from nothing to mark it as spam to just deliver it as normal. And with 5 minutes up in our explanation of an introduction to email authentication, I'd like to come to the challenge to action. So there's a lot to take in here. You need to really understand SPF, dkim, and dmarc each separately to understand how they're written, why they're written in a certain way. So after researching one of those, the best way is to write a draft of each one of those, pen and paper, or just get a text editor out and see if you can craft each one of those. They're in a certain format, and we're going to cover those in the next episode and look at some examples. And like I said, setting some live email authentication records in my own domain in my service provider to see what that looks like, and to give you a live example. So I hope that this information was helpful. What we're trying to do is limit bad actors on the internet that want to use our domain that we're trying to use as a business. And there's a range of side effects of when that can go wrong. If spammers are using it, it hurts our reputation online. It can cause a lot of pain and heartache, and we don't want to represent ourselves like that. We want to make sure that anytime an email is sent and received with our domain listed, we want to make sure that it's received with the highest level of regard and authenticity, and that everything is secure, and that we're not associated with any scammers or bad actors on the internet. So with that, thank you so much for tuning into this one. And the next episode, we're going to be talking about that live implementation. That'll be in 41. Hope to see you there.